Well, hi friends! Are you ready for our weekly Lenormand reading? Today is December 9th, Tuesday. Let's see what Spirit has for us this week. Okay, first card out. Oh, the cross. The cross. That's, well, it's spiritual in nature, but it's karmic, and it's also, the things that you must do. Responsibilities that are, of importance, okay? And it can also be like a life purpose that's very important too. The house is in the center, that's your family roots, your close circles. And then there's the tree, which would be your ancestors, your family, that feeling too. So it's emphasizing that. And then we've got the bear is the conclusion or the culmination. I do see an offer, which, that could be, it's emotional, but, the mothering, nurturing, softer energies are also attached to that. And it has to do with growth, and a little, that recovery type of a feel to it, a wish fulfillment because the sun is there. I do see the whip. The whip in the sun is hard work is paying off, right? And then the upper left is the anchor. The anchor is firm. It's stability. It's determination. It's kind of being, like stubborn, and kind of like firm, hold your ground. And that's also indicated with the tree. The tree's roots, right? They're firm. They're but it's also needs to be a little bit of flexibility here. Because the tree, if it becomes too rigid, it'll snap and break. That's why it teaches us that you need to have flexibility when you are encountering difficult or challenging situations. But the cross is there, so the cross kind of tells me that, if you keep sticking with it, soon everything will work out. The coffin is there. That's a little bit of a period of being away, but it also has that feeling of introspection, right? But also I see in that lineup, the coffin, the house, and the tree, I feel like that's recovery. But it's also, we're here to kind of heal our ancestral, like life has its challenges, right? But I feel like there are some family toxic cycles that we're trying to break here too. So that has that feeling to it. And your ancestors are helping you with this, okay? Because they want to see you overcome these challenges, okay? Because there are challenges here. That's just the first one. Okay, and then I see the scythe and the birds. That's, cutting off communication or sharp words, right? The center is the mice. The mice, that's your nervous energy, anxieties, it's your niggles, but it's that little bit of dis-ease feel to it. But the flowers are there with the mice, so that is like kind of like, the butterfly feel to it, that anxiety, that comes out in its excitement, right? But the butterfly can't be released from its cocoon too soon. So it's almost like, you have to wait for that proper timing, and then things will open up, which is natural. Things, nature, I don't know if you're familiar with the Tao Te Ching, but, they say the Tao does nothing yet leaves nothing undone. So sometimes you have to let things take its course, but you also have to pay attention to the details along the way, okay? So if we're looking at this from like a relationship standpoint, you have to identify what is causing the problem, okay? And then you have to remove what is causing the problem. But I also see a stroke of luck. So I feel like, sometimes we learn things by accident, or things come out in conversations if you listen They will tell you. But yeah, do more listening than your harsh words, okay? Because that's the mice the mice are there with the birds. That kind of gives that feel to it, okay? You need to listen, and it also is going to involve, you know, co, com, you know, like cooperation, okay? The next portrait, the first card out was the lilies. I love the lilies. And you're probably tired of hearing me say that, but it's a career card, but it's also lifestyle, okay? And you want a lifestyle that brings out the best, right? Nobody's here to injure anyone else, right? We're here to help one another. But I feel like, like when you're doing something, if it's not hurting someone else and you enjoy doing it, continue doing it, okay? But you're going to find people along the way that enjoy your company, that have common interests and goals and lifestyles, okay? Now, the fox is there. That's kind of teamworky feel to it. And then the gentleman. So I don't know if that's, somebody that can help you along the way, that is a professional in that field, okay? Because when the fox is there, it's very intelligent, and it's kind of like a guide, or a counselor feel, with the tower there, or possibly an attorney or an advisor of some nature, okay? But the stars are in the upper left-hand corner, so I feel like, that's healing and wish fulfillment. So whatever it is that you're doing, just know that you have support. The lady, the gentleman, and the fox are there. So that's kind of teamwork makes the dream work feel to it, okay? All right. The next card out, though, first card out, were the clouds. The clouds kind of has that nebulous feel to it, but those are your thoughts, that worrying or stewing, or possibly even, what's the word I'm looking for here? Attachment to things. You cannot get too wrapped up in the outcome. You have to allow for, kind of like, a pleasant surprise kind of feel, okay? The clouds and the stork together, that kind of indicates a little bit of, uncertainty in the forward momentum, okay? But you need to have that leap of faith. The key is there. The key is, your solutions, and it would be the green light, but use discernment, okay? And where finances are concerned here, possibly restructuring your finances, budgeting, resourcefulness, but also restoring, maybe, things that have broken, you can fix them rather than buying new, okay? Now I'm going to lay them all out. Let's see what they have to say now. Those were just my first, energies of the portraits. So maybe the actual layout is going to maybe provide a little bit more here. Oh, I do see an aha moment and a breakthrough. I love to see that. But there is, distance, delays, challenges, and a distance. People get frustrated sometimes, stuck in their own ways, or, that mountain kind of has that feeling to it. But there is a breakthrough. So I love to see the breakthroughs. And those delays and challenges are there for a reason. So try not to get discouraged or disappointed because there was a waiting period or a delay that was to get things in alignment, and for everyone to learn enough information, or enough time has passed that things become clear, okay? Kind of like, have you ever sat with an idea and you're like, or a problem, and you're like, oh, I have no idea how to solve this problem. And then you think on it, and then all of a sudden you get these aha moments. I know what to do. I know how to fix this. And, if you don't know the answer, it's okay that you don't know all the answers, but if you can if you know where to go to get the answer, like the professional that I was speaking of. So, don't be afraid to ask, because there are plenty of people out there that are more than willing to help you. Okay. All right. Now the center card is the gentleman. The gentleman is that masculine energy. I do see that there might be a little bit of missing them. And then, maybe messages, maybe write down, or maybe, write notes, send messages. Don't just, be sad, maybe, get your thoughts on paper. I personally miss my dad, and, I feel like, the things that I do, I try to do an honoring of him, the craft projects that I do. I made this little penny wreath, which, the penny was discontinued this year, or retired. And my dad also passed away this year. So they both, Lincoln is on the penny, and his birthday was February 12th, and so was my father's. So I thought it was an appropriate thing to do to honor him, was to make a little penny wreath with him in mind. And whenever I do creative projects, I like to think those positive thoughts, because it kind of like infuses the art piece with that energy. So, and it does help heal. There are so many modalities of healing. Writing is one, music is one, crafting is one, talking to people, that would be like your therapies, but then there's also, your Reiki and massages and cranial sacrals and sound therapies. There are so many therapies out there that can help heal you, right? The conversation, if you feel like you can't reach out for help and you are going it alone, I feel like that's why God placed people in our lives, to help us get through those hard times. And everybody has a gift and a talent that they're able to share in order to, help another person, right? All I know is, I have such appreciation for people who have gifts, people who have musical abilities, people who have, they're gifted in whether it's their voice or being able to play an instrument, people that were given God-given talents, and you don't want to misuse them, but you don't also want to not use them. That's why we have these gifts, is to share them, okay? I do see intuition is in a focal spot. So everyone has been gifted intuition. Not everybody, everybody wants to use the word psychic. No, it's your intuition. It would be your internal compass that's able to direct and guide you. Okay. And if you were to listen to your internal guidance system instead of being impulsive and acting without going within and really feeling what your higher self already knows, that's when we get into trouble. Okay. I know people that can work on a fly too, Oh my gosh, my son Kyle, he was given an assignment at school where he had to make a simple machine, and he waited until like 11 o'clock the day before it was due, and he comes up with this genius idea. It was such a good idea that he was asked to come before the school board and present it. So all that did was reward bad behavior in my eyes, but I was very proud of the fact that he was able to do something outstanding on the fly, And when I'm doing my, readings and that, things just pop in. So yes, there is a degree of spontaneity and impulsiveness, but I'm saying when you are making life-altering decisions, which, that was the cross that came out, you need to reflect, and you need to, look at the whole big picture. I'm a Libra, right? It's not, they say we have a hard time making a decision. No, we just want to know what all of our options are before you make the next best step, okay? So use discernment. That is key. Don't just jump to conclusions. You need to use discernment, wise discernment, okay? Oh, I see a small blessing coming, and talks with friends, and maybe yeah, I see a group of individuals, because that third party type of feel is coming into focus. So gather up your girlfriends and maybe do a girls crafting day, girls trip, maybe wine and cheese, charcuteries, a something. I feel like that is something to do, maybe to get together as a friendsmas, for Christmas. And gifts, they don't have to be extravagant. Gifts are from the heart, right? And the love that you put into each one of those, the thought that you put into that is the gift, right? So I do see research and maybe higher learning. So, if there's something that you've been wanting to learn or delve into, start researching it, and maybe take a few courses. They can be online, but I'm a fan of in person, right? I know right now I have to take a course to, for my mortgage licensing. I did my continuing ed, but we have one more course that we have to do. So I got to get that done before the year's end. But yeah, I do see an offer and a small blessing. Those are in the same portrait here, and it could be multiple. So, maybe just be pleasantly surprised and take each day as it comes to you, and don't get attached to any outcomes. So just let life kind of flow through you, okay? The tree was there talking about that wise discernment, but be flexible. Maybe listen more and talk less, feel to it. But yeah, there's nothing more important than communication when it comes to relationships. If you're not able to communicate, then you can never really see or understand if there are any issues, okay? And getting your feelings out there. Sometimes some people have a very difficult time showing emotion. I have no problem with that. But I have learned that emotional intelligence is also important. So some people will use their emotions to manipulate. When I cry, man, my heart is hurting. Let's see. Like children, they'll pretend that they're hurt. Yeah, right. Suck it up, buttercup. No, but they just give them when you're talking about children, yeah, babies cry for a reason, but, they learn to play their little cards, so just, balance that out, and maybe go give them loving without them even expecting it. So let's see. Yeah, I have 2 breakthrough combinations here. So I feel like, and it kind of involves the ship, so it might be, travels. So I like to see that. I know multiple people I know are going on trips, so that makes perfect sense. I see a little bit of, either decluttering or house repair. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, like just clear it out if you can, purge, because when you make room for, those things are cluttering your space, are also, there's, it also has a way when you clean that up, it makes more room, kind of like the made bed is the clear head feel. And I don't go to bed without my dishes done, and I don't leave until my bed is made every day. Those are the things I've always been my entire life, and I try to stay as organized as possible too, so that I can, think clearly. Otherwise I'd be worrying and, about all the things that I need to take care of. But that cross came out. That cross are your responsibilities, of things that are of importance. So, make your list of all the things in the order of importance and just start checking them off, right? Every time you check one off, that's a dopamine hit, a natural dopamine hit. So, let's see. There's so much love in multiple arenas here. So, maybe it's your friend group, your workspace, your family, your church group, or your spiritual group. This is the time of the year where everybody comes together and they actually do the things that Christ taught, that love, the unconditional love. That's the message, for no other ulterior motives, all that aside, all you really need is love. And, lead with your heart. Okay, folks. Well, I think that's it this week. Until next week, you have a blessed week. Take care. Bye-bye now.